Hey friends, welcome back. This is a reading chat. Oh my god, who am I? A reading chat 2 weeks in a row? We have got our life together. That was the intention originally with these. I was like, grand idea. I'll do this on a weekly basis and talk about the books I got on the go and just yap about whatever. And yeah, it really turned into like an every other week thing, which is totally fine. But like, I do feel very accomplished right now that I'm sitting here and recording this. So, anyways, what do you guys want to talk about first? Bookish things or non-bookish things, because the non-bookish thing that I have is kind of exciting. So we'll just get that out of the way. My fiance and I were driving home one day through our neighborhood, and we saw that somebody had put out like a table on their front lawn and all this free stuff. And we saw on the table that there was a whole bunch of plants that they were giving away. So we pulled over like immediately. And look at this cute little plant I mean, that the person was giving away for free. Like, I don't know if you can kind of see. It's a succulent variation, I know that. But yeah, I was like, it's in very good condition. We picked up two other plants. One was a spider plant, and then we rescued an aloe plant as well. I say rescued because those two looked rough. And we were like, you know what? We can nurse these little guys back to life. And so this guy was in the best condition. But yeah, I thought that that was so cool. Yeah, I was like, okay, well, how does that saying go? Another person's trash is another person's, how does that saying go? Anyways, doesn't really matter. Okay, moving on to bookish updates. The book that I did finish is First Time Caller by B.K. Borrison, and this was really cute. I'm really happy with how this went. This really has a lot of aspects within it that I kind of like look for in my romances. Has some sweetness, some emotional complexity. Our main character, Aiden, he's a bit of a grumpy Gus, but like an emotionally and mentally complex Gus. Somebody who doesn't totally know how to like vocalize his emotions very well, which was definitely something interesting to see him kind of like navigate throughout the book. And by, yeah, I won't spoil anything, but like, yeah, that's just something he navigates. Do I think he navigated it perfectly well? No, but I think that this was also like a very human book in a way. And then our female main character, Lucy, she was sweet as pie. I think in like TikTok terms, this was like the grumpy sunshine trope. I thought that the way that Borrison had written the tension between these two and the setting was used really well. The fact that it was in like a radio station and they have this like very tiny office that they both have to work in. Whether that is realistic to true, radio practices, I don't really know, but but I enjoyed it for what it was. It was a cute time. I went ahead and bought a copy because I figured my fiance would like to read it one day. It's a really quick read. I read this in like 4 days or something like that. I actively kept picking this up over the other book that I had on the go. So yeah, overall really good. One of my definitely notable favorites from this year for romances, and I will be reading more from B.K. Borrison. I think if there was a second book in this series that she came out with, I would love to follow along with Jackson's love story. Jackson is his colleague, and he was just like such a cutie patootie. I really appreciated the scenes where he kind of like his personality really shone, and yeah, it was very sweet. So, and I think a good nod to Sleepless in Seattle. Sleepless in Seattle is like not my favorite Tom Hanks Meg Ryan romance movie, but I understand and appreciate that it is a classic for what it was. So yeah. All right. The other thing is, I think last I checked in my last reading chat, I talked about how I'm reading Everyone Who Can Forgive Me Is Dead by Jenny Hollander. And I think I'm going to DNF this for now. This was the book where I was just like constantly picking up First Time Caller instead of Everyone Who Can Forgive Me Is Dead. And I think it's interesting when I read multiple books at the same time and I'm just like continuously gravitating towards one over the others. And I think that that says something about the book that I'm kind of like continuously gravitating towards, but also the ones that I'm not gravitating towards. And so the other thing is, whenever I would pick this up, I constantly, like, my mind would start wandering elsewhere. I would immediately start thinking about other things. And luckily, my library has the audiobook as well. And so I was like, you know what, maybe tandem reading will help me really kind of stay focused with this. And even then, like, I don't know, I'm not super invested in what is going on. Our main character that we are following in it, what is her name? Charlie. So there's something that happened years and years ago from when she was in university some night. She is alluding to the fact that she is maybe not being totally honest, or maybe she was lying about what happened that night. Some details are just kind of alluded. And she is absolutely terrified of Reddit sleuths or just people online digging up this previous tragedy. And this girl that she used to go to school with is now making a movie based on the incident. And she's just kind of panicking at this point, and trying to stop it. She also, aside from that, in her personal life, is very successful at her job. And she's also getting married to a very wealthy and well-known family who has a lot of resources. And so she's like trying to get a little bit closer to her mother-in-law in order to utilize the resources that the family has. And honestly, like, not, oh, and then the other thing too is that we get excerpts from like back then to present day. And normally those past timeline pieces are discussed and revealed when she's with her therapist. I don't know, like, it's interesting. I got about, I think about 40% in, and literally what we've known going into this book has not changed at all. Like, it's just kind of the same information, just presented in different ways. And she's slowly unraveling, and I get that that's, we're following along with her unraveling rather than information being presented really consistently. Sorry, my cat wants to eat that. There's like just some pacing issues with it. And then when the past timeline comes in, I'm just kind of like, okay, like, I don't know. It's just not keeping my attention, and the pacing is off, and we're just not really learning anything new per se. And I find that the tension isn't really, wow, my cats are obsessed with this plant. I just find that the tension isn't really successfully being built for me to retain my attention. And tension is in like, things feel tense because our main character is spiraling. She is actively spiraling, just losing it. And after looking at some reviews on Storygraph about this book, I'm kind of like, it's not really selling me on the fact to keep going. I'm just going to DNF it. I got almost halfway, maybe 40%. The other book that I am reading currently is The Manor of Dreams by Christina Lee. This is going interestingly. I wouldn't say that I am like hooked. I'm dying to know what's going to be happening. I'm about, how many pages in am I? 95 pages in. And yeah, things are just kind of still being painted for me at this point. Like, I thought that this was like a gothic thriller mystery type book. So basically we have Nora and Elaine, they are mother-daughter, and then Lucille, Renata, and Madeline. And Lucille and Madeline are mother-daughter, and Renata is Lucille's sister, so Madeline's aunt. Lucille and Renata are the daughters of Vivian, who was the very wealthy, well-known actress who passed away, and they thought that they were going to be inheriting her manor. in comes Nora and Elaine. They get notified when Vivian dies, and they're both kind of confused a little bit, especially Nora, who is Elaine's daughter. But they go to the estate, the manor, and during the reading of the will, they find out that the estate is left to Nora and Elaine. Lucille is not happy about this whatsoever. For starters, Elaine isn't Vivian's daughter. She's not necessarily related to the family in any way. Elaine was the daughter of Vivian's housekeeper and groundskeeper. And so grew up in the home as well, or just kind of was around, but not necessarily close with the family in that way. So very odd that Vivian left this manor to Elaine. And Lucille is really kind of taken it upon herself to assume that Elaine did something to Vivian, like something happened so she could get the manor, inherit the manor. And some of it just isn't really making any sense. I think Lucille is just in grief and shock and can't quite accept that her mother had left the estate to somebody else who wasn't her. And so anyways, there's definitely weird things happening at the manor, and I would say that yes, there's spooky, but I wish that this was more like gritty in some ways and atmospheric. So a lot of the descriptions as far as the creepy things going on kind of feel a little bit like one-dimensional in a way. Like they're just they're there. They don't really have much like oomph to me, or really scary kind of vibes associated with it. And so, yeah, I just wish that the writing was maybe a little bit more gritty or maybe a little bit more atmospheric potentially. Like, I feel that maybe Christina Lee the atmosphere she's trying to develop is just with the manor itself. Like it's dark, it's lavish, it's kind of run down. It's like the garden is doing weird things. Clearly something is happening where people's eyes are playing tricks on them, or are they? Like, are they seeing ghosts? Are they seeing spooky things? And, the atmosphere of like the manor itself just isn't working for the spooky things, or maybe the spooky things isn't, I don't quite know. Like, yeah, for now though, I do feel that like the descriptions of the creepy things going on just aren't having that oomph that I think that Christina Lee is hoping that it does. It does say in the author description, or was it, I don't quite know, maybe her author description, that this is her first adult book that she's written. She's written YA previously. And I will say that I think that there are some hints in the writing of kind of YA, especially with how our two characters, Nora and Madeline, are written. Like they're in their early 20s, like 2022, but they're kind of written like teenagers. But one could argue that yes, being a 20-year-old is a young adult, a younger adult. And then the other thing is that we're getting historical timeline, like a past timeline from 1975, which was Vivian's perspective. So the grandmother who passed away and the mother who passed away. And this is a very interesting kind of flashbacks. I was like, why is my gothic thriller have spicy scenes in it? There was a couple of paragraphs in the first 90 pages here where I was kind of like, am I reading a romance or am I reading a gothic thriller? I don't really quite know. Because Vivian has met Richard, I think is his name, and he is not Lucille's dad, but she marries him and has a couple more kids with him. And yeah, I don't know. I don't quite know how to feel about that, because I'm like, what is this book trying to be? Is it trying to be a gothic thriller? Is it trying to be spooky? Like, I don't know. Yeah, my Storygraph journal entry, I said, why is there a spicy scene in my gothic thriller? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Not that like I read romance. It's not that I don't mind spice. It just feels very out of place with, I feel like, what she was trying to build so far, which is like this house has a very weird and creepy history and backstory, and the family that used to own it is upset that Vivian and her husband have moved into here. Like, there's all this weirdness surrounding this house. So I don't know. I think the romance piece in this just kind of feels a little bit misplaced, but the backstory chapters, I'm assuming, are going to be pertinent to know how, like, to know obviously how Vivian moves into this house, but also how she's trying to build her American dream, because that's also part of kind of what's explored in here. So we will see how this continues to develop. But yeah, almost 100 pages in so far. How do I feel about the writing itself? Neutral. I feel fine. Like, there's nothing necessarily standing out to me about it, but yeah. Other than that, I've kind of made the decision to return Sleep by Honor Jones. There's, I think, about like 6 or 7 other people waiting to read it. And so I'm just going to return it. And if I feel like picking it back up, I can just hop back in the hold line at the library. Now, the other book that I will be giving back to the library, because I don't think I'll get to it in time, is The Names by Florence Now. There you go. There are 189 people waiting to read this book. So I'm not going to get to it in the next few days because, again, I'm trying to stick with my quick to judge challenge and the order of which I kind of like identified which books interested me the most. And this was definitely lower, I think, on the list, if I remember correctly. But I still have Pet, and Pet I can renew because nobody's necessarily waiting for that right now. So yeah, crazy amount of people waiting for that book. Really crazy. It's too bad I haven't been able to get to it, but it is what it is. So I think that's all the reading updates at this point. Yeah, I'm only reading one book right now. Weird. Oh, that feels weird. I didn't realize that. I will say that on my ebook, or my e-reader, sorry, Libby notified me that Patricia Wants to Cuddle and Sandwich by, what is her name? I'll put the screenshot up here. Both became available. And so I downloaded both of them because I was like, I could be in the mood for both. And also Caitlin over at Spill the Reads had raved about Patricia Wants to Cuddle. And I'm like, maybe something quirky and weird is like what I need right now. So ebook to be determined, but my physical read right now is The Manor of Dreams by Christina Lee. So that's where that stands. Now, something adjacent to reading that I noticed before I hopped on to record here is I opened my Storygraph and there's now a favorites shelf immediately. As soon as you go to where you can see like you're currently reading, read recently, like that page, you can add a favorites shelf and it looks so cute. It's like a little shelf with like a succulent on it. Oh, how do I get back to it? Oh my God, what the hell? Oh, there we go. Okay. I'll put a screenshot in here of what it looks like. So yeah, I mean, the succulent goes away when you add a book to it, but yeah, that's kind of cute. And so I assume whoever goes and sees your profile, like you can kind of see what their favorites are, which I think is really cool. Because sometimes I will like follow people on Storygraph that I see had like very similar reviews about books that like I felt very similar about. And so I was like, oh, it seems like we have very similar reading tastes. And yeah, so that'd be a good just kind of snapshot to see. But anyway, so check that out if you have a Storygraph for yourself, and maybe throw a couple books on your favorites list. But anyways, other than that, that is pretty much it. That is all the reading updates and whatnot for this week. But thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Hopefully it's another reading chat next week, but it'll for sure be a book take video. Okay, bye.